Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about the advantages and the disadvantages of teaching English online. So if that's something that you guys are interested in, then definitely keep watching. Alright, so I'm going to just put a little disclaimer. If you guys don't know, I am a freelance teacher teaching on a platform called Preply, and I teach English to foreign students. So basically, I'm going to be talking about my experience. So the experience will differ from teacher to teacher. It depends on the platform that they're using or the school that they are teaching at, as well as the age of students, etc. So there's a lot of factors that will influence this, but like I said, this is just my experience, okay? So I'm going to start with the advantages. And I would say that my first advantage is that I get to work remotely. So I don't need to leave my home. I don't need to travel. I don't need to do anything special. I could literally just wake up, put something over myself, brush my hair, and be ready to work, right? So I think that that's pretty convenient. The second thing for me is that I have a lot of flexibility being a freelance teacher. So I get to set up my schedule and I don't have a minimum number of hours per week that I need to work. So some companies do have that requirement, but on Preply there isn't such a requirement. So if I didn't want to work at all in a week, that would also be okay. It wouldn't affect anything as long as I'm not missing any lessons that are booked. Then I would say that the other advantage for me is, yes, of course, earning in dollars. The exchange rate is great, especially if you're South African. It's generally between 18 and 19 Rand to $1. Sometimes when it's really good, you get about 20, 21 Rand. But generally, you can work on about 18 Rand 70, for example. So the exchange rate is also very good. So that is an obvious factor as to why it's an advantage. Um, but I would say that there are some disadvantages that come with the transferring of your money. And I will get into that just now. Then the next advantage is you get to meet people from all over the world. So you get to interact with people from different cultures, different backgrounds, different industries, careers. Like, it's so interesting, you know? You also get to see a country through a native's eyes. Like, you get to experience a side of a country that you wouldn't get to experience even if you visited that country as a tourist. And I've also made such close friends while teaching, so that's always a bonus. The other thing is, being a freelance teacher, I have full control over the material that I use and the types of lessons that I do. So I really like that. I did apply to another school where, I don't know, everything was quite scripted, and that wasn't for me. So I like the freedom that I have, that I can just choose what I want to speak about on a specific day. So that's really nice. And then, what other advantages can I think of? I think the other one is, and this is kind of strange. However, you can also, with if you have, for example, some students who speak a certain language, okay, you could also have like some kind of exchange. So yes, you are exchanging money for the lesson, for example. But let's say you want to learn Spanish and you have a student who is a Spanish teacher. I teach a lot of other teachers. Some of them are English teachers, some of them are teachers who teach other languages, for example. And let's just say there's a student, he's a Spanish teacher, and you want to learn Spanish. So you could actually also exchange your knowledge, and that's also quite a cool thing because you're also learning something while teaching someone else something new. So I think for now, those are kind of the advantages that I can think of. Now, let's move on to the disadvantages. I'm going to start off with what I mentioned earlier. I said that when it comes to the US dollar conversion into your bank account, there is a disadvantage. And for me, I mainly think it's the method that you use to withdraw. There are different methods. I think there's four that I'm aware of: PayPal, Payoneer, Skrill, and Wise. So I've used PayPal and Payoneer. I will do a comparison of both of them for you guys in a different video. But the one disadvantage is that with PayPal, for example, you link that to your FNB bank account. That's the one that I'm using currently. However, it takes about 3 business days for your money to clear. So you have this money, but it's kind of sitting somewhere here, and you can't use it if you need to immediately. Okay. And PayPal doesn't offer like a virtual card where you can just tap for things, for example. So that's kind of a disadvantage for me, because I feel like you have the money, but you've got to wait for it if you want to use it. Then the other disadvantage is obviously this is based on the type of person you are. If you are an extrovert and you're very social, this might not be the job for you, because you're going to be very isolated, not just from your friends, but also your family. If you're going to work hours like I do, between 10 and 13 hours on some days, I don't do this every day, you're not really going to see them. It's just like in passing by a hi or something. Or if you have 10 minutes, you can maybe go and talk to someone. But in general, you're going to be in a space, like I have a spare bedroom here, and this is where I teach. And so I'm kind of closed off from everyone else. And I don't really leave my house much because I work all the time. So if your personality is someone outgoing who needs interaction with other people, you could suffer from, like, I don't know, a little bit of sadness or depression or something like that. It is possible. I have heard people say that, it does bother them, but I feel like you kind of get used to it as well. And in my case, you kind of like it a little too much. But the other disadvantage that I think is worth mentioning is something that nobody else spoke about when I was looking for videos on YouTube. And this is the headaches. Now, I know that might sound strange, but teaching English online, yes, it is easy, but it's also quite strenuous on your body, because remember, you're going to be speaking a lot. So let's say you are teaching for 9 hours in the day. About 5 hours of those 9 hours, you're going to be speaking, and sometimes more. It just depends on the type of lesson. If it's conversation or if it's presentations, like conversation is more 50-50, or you want to go like 70-30 or 60-40. It just depends. You want your student to speak a lot, but if they make mistakes, you need to correct them, and then you might need to explain the grammar or whatever. So then you need to start speaking, and it happens a lot where you are continuously talking. And the first couple of days of doing it, I actually felt like the pressure build in like my head, almost like my head felt like, oh my gosh, it's gonna explode. My eyes were so sore, my jaw was so sore, like even my cheeks, because you've got to smile as well. You've got to be very inviting, very friendly, very comforting. And so my face was very sore. My throat really hurt, my head really hurt, and it took about a week or two to actually get used to it. But still, on days when I pull a 13-hour shift, it is very taxing. Like, I am exhausted at the end of it. So that is something to consider that I've never heard anyone else mention, but I thought that maybe it was worth it to maybe tell you guys. The other thing is, as a disadvantage, on my platform, on Preply does not screen students before they enter the platform. And you know what? Most students, and I hope you never have these kinds of instances, but most students are pretty decent. They're looking for a lesson. But then you have some students who are not looking for lessons. They're looking for something else. And they can get a little bit rude and inappropriate. And there can be some inappropriate situations that occur. And I've had a few of those. Then you can also come across a situation where a student is just extremely rude, and to a point where they kind of like, I don't know, I had a student who was like almost very threatening. And even though I reported him and they blocked his profile, you can just create another account, come back to Preply, and message the tutor or get another trial lesson, and you have to continue this blocking process. So that's the only thing. However, I haven't spoken to a lot of people who have experienced this, and so far, like, I don't know why, but I've had these experiences, and maybe it's so that I can tell you guys about it, but I don't know. That's another disadvantage. They don't screen everyone that comes in there, so you never know whether you're going to get a weirdo or not in your classroom. Then I would say the other disadvantage is that because it's everything is virtual, right? And it's at the comfort of using your laptop or your cell phone. I never ever recommend using a cell phone, whether you're teaching or you're taking a lesson. It's just very inconvenient. But there are students who, for example, will drive while having a lesson, sit in a coffee shop while having a lesson, walk around in a shopping center. Like, they're moving around, they're not in one place. So you might have planned something for that particular lesson, and then wow, the student enters and they are somewhere else. There's background noise, they have poor connection, it's very difficult to hear them, and so it's a little bit more challenging to have a class like that. You can talk to your student about it if it's really bothering you. With me, I'm very I'm very flexible and I adapt very quickly, so it's like, okay, it's not the ideal situation, but I mean, I'm not going to make a big thing out of it unless it's like you're at a nightclub or something. Speaking of which, I did have a student who actually was at a party while having a lesson with me and drunk as well. So in those cases, then I will say, like, listen, this is impossible to continue with the lesson, and you need to confirm the lesson and book a new one because it's now my time that's being wasted. So it just depends on the situation. So I'd say those are the main disadvantages that I can kind of think of. Um, and yeah, for me, I can't really say load shedding is a disadvantage because I do have, thankfully, I'm very grateful for it. I do have solar power. I have a backup inverter as well, which helps, and it runs my fiber. So I don't go offline unless there's some kind of outage with the fiber itself. Like, sometimes you have outages in these areas, then yes, that can be a problem. But load shedding is not really a problem for me anymore. So at first, yes, it was a disadvantage, but now at this point, not so much. But yeah, guys, that's basically everything that I can kind of think of at this particular moment. If anything else comes to mind, I will definitely make a part two. But yes, thank you guys for watching, and all of you guys for subscribing and interacting with my videos. I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys in the next one.